Well, hi, this is Ken Auerbach from Cartier, Bernstein, Auerbach, and Steinberg. If you or someone you care for has been injured from no fault of their own, please contact Cartier, Bernstein, Auerbach, and Steinberg at myinjuryli.com or call 631-654-4900. Whether auto or work-related, slip and fall, trip and fall, construction accidents, dog bite, medical malpractice, or nursing home neglect, or various other types of negligence, please contact me at Cartier, Bernstein, Auerbach, and Steinberg by visiting me at myinjuryli.com or call 631-654-4900. I will represent you with integrity and passion. Living in pain from no fault of your own can be emotionally and physically detrimental and affect all aspects of your life. Please contact me, Ken Auerbach, at Cartier, Bernstein, Auerbach, and Steinberg by visiting myinjuryli.com or call 631-654-4900 for an immediate and free consultation and the support and representation you deserve. Well, hi, everyone. This is personal injury attorney Ken Auerbach from Cartier, Bernstein, Auerbach, and Steinberg, here with my great associate and my co-host, Amanda Spino. Hey, Amanda.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good.
Yeah. Well, welcome back to our program, folks, and you're on our program from no fault of your own. It's our goal to give you an insider's view of bringing and proceeding with various types of personal injury actions caused by the negligence of some other party. And among these areas that we have explored, and we're going to continue to do so, are car accidents, trip and slip and falls, construction accidents, medical malpractice, dog bites, nursing home neglect, products liability, and really many, many other circumstances of negligence and the serious injuries that often do occur. And through our journey together, hopefully we've removed some of the mystery, uncertainty that goes with that and not understanding the topic, and have you at this point feel empowered, knowledgeable, and confident in the process. We are live today, so if you have a question, you can call us at the studio at 631-451-1039, and we would be privileged to answer your questions about personal injury. So, Amanda, we're talking about, you and I, on the way here to the studio today, a couple of things. The number of motorcycle accidents has really, really been bad recently.
Yes, they've been all over the news, especially those left-hand turns. And as we know, we do all have to watch out for motorcycles, especially as the weather is nice, and, look out for those drivers.
And, I guess part of the deal is in the summer, there's more motorcycles.
Yes.
More cars.
Yes.
And there's more things going on. So people's attentions oftentimes are attracted to things other than the roadway in front of them, right?
Yes, definitely.
So I was thinking of that, going by, it was Carnival someplace in Suffolk County, and I was going by that, and, I noticed myself, like, just doing that. You're keeping your eyes out, you're looking, for people walking, but, sometimes you could have a tendency to turn to the left, and easily you could get distracted, and easily you could really be the cause of a terrible accident. It really just takes a moment of inattention, and so we're just emphasizing to everybody, we want everybody to be safe out there. And we've had Chris Beckins on the program here,
yes.
And Chris has talked about the necessity for people riding motorcycles also to make sure that they're being careful and that they're paying attention and doing their job. But really, when we're driving a vehicle, it's thousands of pounds of metal, and it's dangerous, and it could be dangerous. And
just so everyone remembers, Chris Beckins is the president of Long Island Abate. We've had him on our show many times before. If you're looking to listen or watch any of our prior shows, you can go to our website, myinjuryli.com, and there you'll find all our prior shows. Amanda, if they call in today, if they have a question, what could we give them? So we will give you a From No Fault of Your Own t-shirt. We're looking forward to doing that. They are out there. We are, again, being sponsored by Petey's Taps and Caps. And it's going to be a great bar and restaurant on South Country Road in East Patchogue. They should be opening up sometime mid-August, but we'll have a date. And when they do open up, we're going to give a bunch of our T-shirts out there. And if you do go there and you say, hey, you heard about their place on our show, you're going to get a free round. That's awesome.
So looking forward to that. We'll keep you in the loop on that one. The other thing, Amanda, this time of the year, sometimes the weather can be kind of gnarly at times, and certain things could happen, and that can have an effect, right, on whether someone's property is safe and whether or not they're keeping their property safe so that someone doesn't get hurt, right?
Yes, we just actually were talking about this earlier. We had a storm on Saturday that was a very brief storm, but it was a little bit wild. The wind was blowing and the rain came down hard. So that kind of triggered this conversation of what should people be looking out for after storms happen, and how can they keep their property reasonably safe?
Right. And, we're talking about scenarios such as, let's say with the wind the other day, there were a lot of large branches that came down. Now, the fact is that in terms of a branch coming down in itself, does that automatically make you responsible if someone happens to, let's say, trip over that? And the answer is no. But every situation is different. So if you have, as an example, a situation where a large branch comes down and comes across your driveway, and you know that it's across the driveway and you don't make an effort to remove that. And then let's say the next night or 2 nights or 3 nights later, someone is invited onto your property, or maybe they just come onto your property because they're delivering a package. And let's say in your driveway, you could have a couple of scenarios. Maybe the lights aren't working great in the driveway. You don't have great lighting. And the person goes to walk up your driveway. They trip over that large branch that's been there for, let's say, a couple of days, and fall and fracture their leg seriously. Now, someone might say well, that's a natural event, right? So I'm not responsible for a natural event. Well, you're not responsible for the natural event, but you are responsible for the consequences of not making sure that you reasonably take care of your property after that natural event, right?
Right, exactly. So when 3, 4, 5 days have passed now and you're aware that this branch is still across your property, you're aware that the lighting isn't adequate, you're aware that people may come onto your property and you do nothing, that can make you liable.
Right, and that's negligence because you didn't maybe necessarily create the original condition.
Right.
But you knew that condition existed, and so you as a owner of a property have what they call a non-delegable duty. In other words, you can't require someone else to take over that duty for you. You have a non-delegable duty to keep your property in a reasonably safe condition. You had enough time to now make arrangements to get that branch taken off there, to get it cut up, and you will have responsibility. So it's not as simple as it's a natural event, therefore I have no responsibility.
Right.
We have tree cases too.
Yes.
Okay. And we've done tree cases where a tree branch comes down and someone might say, well, it was windy that day. Okay, that might be. But were you aware that tree branch and that tree itself was rotted out? And was there indications within that tree that there was a problem? It was a hollowed out tree, and you should have gone ahead and made sure that you maintained that tree properly. And it could be very serious. I mean, a tree branch coming down on somebody could seriously maim them or kill them. And I have head injury cases, serious head injury cases, where people were on, in one case I can think of is on a particular public property, and it was clear that when you walked on the path next to this tree, you could see that this tree had significant amounts of rot to it. And they did not maintain that tree. And they admitted that. They did absolutely no maintenance of those trees.
Right.
And so, of course, the argument that we have is they knew or should have known that branch was rotted, that serious injury could occur. And in this case, serious injury really did occur. It's a person that now has to live with that injury the rest of their lives. And it only would have taken someone to just have a process put in place to inspect the trees that are around the walkways. At least we're not saying in the middle of in the woods someplace where no one's going to get hurt, but where the walkways are, inspect those trees, have someone come in every so often and to cut the trees down that need to be cut down, cut the branches down. They didn't do that. And so, yes, that's a natural condition,
right?
But you have an obligation, if you're inviting people onto your property, to make sure that they're reasonably safe. And so each case is different. I have other cases where we've looked at the case and the homeowner did everything they could do. So let's say you have a storm in progress. So the other night we had that crazy storm,
right?
And the branches were breaking off of it. If someone happens to come on your property, and let's just say that the branch itself and the tree itself was healthy, it's just the amount of wind that came through it, and that tree happened to come down, or a part of that tree came down. Are you automatically responsible if someone gets hurt during the storm? And the answer is what?
It depends.
It depends. So in a case where the tree really was in good condition and just terribly happened, it was a natural event, and someone got injured, you may not be responsible. So each case is different, and that's why we always tell you when something happens, pick up the phone and call us. Let us discuss it. Let us listen to what you have to say. We'll ask you certain questions, probing questions to try to get to the bottom of it. And then based upon that, we'll be able to assess, do you have a potential personal injury case to get recovery for your serious injuries, or is it a situation where we're not going to have a viable case? And we look at each case on its own. We don't assume because we had another case that was successful that yours will be, and we don't assume because there's another case that maybe we couldn't take that we couldn't take yours. So please always pick up the phone. Where could they get us, Amanda?
You can get us at 631-654-4900 or on the web at myinjuryli.com. Again, 631-654-4900 or myinjuryli.com.
And we'll see you on the other side. Got a great guest today, Dr. Joseph Hanono from Zwenga Pasiri Radiology. Well, welcome back to our program. If you're just joining us, this is personal injury attorney Ken Auerbach here with my great co-host and associate Amanda Spinner, and you're on our program from No Fault of Your Own. We are live, and we're exploring some of the most important issues in personal injuries caused by accidents. You could call into the studio right now and get us live, and we'd be glad to answer any question you may have about personal injury at 631-451-1039. That's 631-451-1039. Amanda, if they call in, what do we got for them?
We will give you a From No Fault of Your Own t-shirt.
And if you or someone you care about has been injured as a direct result of someone else's negligence, please contact us at myinjuryli.com or call 631-654-4900. That's myinjuryli.com or call 631-654-4900. It would be our privilege to fight to get you justice. And all of our personal injury consultations are always free. And if you do retain us, it's always on a contingency. So that means that it doesn't cost you anything unless we are successful. And we'll also add expenses, and you don't have to pass those back unless we are successful also. Amanda, when could they listen to our program?
Every Monday from 4 to 5 p.m.
And love for you to listen to those, and love for you, if you have a question, give us a call.
Yes, please give us a call. Don't be shy. We love to hear from you. We love to hear from you after the radio, but we also love to hear from you when we're on the radio. So.
And Amanda, we are being sponsored today by whom?
Yes, we are being sponsored today by PD's Taps and Caps, which will be opening in mid-August on South Country Road in East Patchogue. And if you mention that you heard about them on our radio show, they will give you a free round of drinks, and you will also get a From No Fault of Your Own t-shirt.
So we are excited for PD's Taps and Caps to be opening, and we're excited to have you on our program. And we're also excited to have a great guest today. And Dr. Joe Hanono is with Zwenga Pasiri Radiology. Dr. Joe, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
So it's really, yeah, thanks for coming on the program. Really appreciate it. We know you got a busy schedule. So let's start out by asking you some basics. You're a radiologist, right, doctor?
Yes.
Okay. And in order to become a radiologist, you're a medical doctor, correct?
Correct.
So you went to medical school. Where'd you go to undergraduate? Where'd you go to medical school?
I went to NYU for undergrad, and I went to medical school in New York in SUNY Downstate in Brooklyn.
Oh, awesome. And when did you decide to become a radiologist?
So I would say it was towards my fourth year of medical school. I had tried out a lot of the different specialties, and then I took a 1-month course on diagnostic radiology, and it was kind of very fitting for a lot of things I like to do. I was a math major in college, so I was always into, problem solving, and a lot of what radiology is you're kind of solving problems. You're looking for the clues on the imaging to figure out what's going on with the patient and what's wrong with the patient.
So when you're in medical school, when you're making a decision as to what area you want to practice, you're able to get sort of certain exposure to different areas of practice, and ultimately you make that decision. And then after making that decision, you do at some point a residency program, right? Is that correct?
Yes.
And a residency program would be where you're actually studying and involved with actually doing the practice that you're going to go into radiology, right?
Exactly.
And so why don't you tell us a little bit about radiology? So what does a radiologist actually do? Amanda, do you know what a radiologist does?
I think Dr. Joe should tell us.
Okay. So why don't you tell us,
All
Dr.
right.
Joe?
So a radiologist is a medical doctor that is an expert in interpreting medical imaging, and they come up with the diagnosis. A referring doctor would send a patient for an examination, and it could be an MRI, a CAT scan, an X-ray, and all the knowledge that we've acquired over the years of training. You really have to have a lot of medical knowledge, and we use all this while we're looking at the images to come up with a diagnosis on what's wrong with the patient. It could be cancer, it could be an inflammation somewhere, it could be problems with the colon, it could be sports injuries. So there's a lot of different fields within radiology, and at the end of the day, we're coming up with the diagnosis for the patient, or multiple diagnoses of what it could be, and we're kind of helping either the primary doctor or the original doctor who sent the patient, or we're helping them come up with a diagnosis or a group of diagnoses that it could be to help them treat them.
So a case gets to your office, and you get involved in it after the case is referred by some medical provider, some doctor or medical provider. Is that correct?
Yes.
And so it's not like someone just kind of walks off the street and just decides to have a test. They're actually referred to your facility, and they're referred for a particular type of test. Is that right?
Right. 90% of the time, you're not getting somebody walking off the street.
Okay. And so when you're doing your job, right, and on a daily basis, you actually are looking at results of films that are being taken of a person's body in different parts of their body, and you have to assess now what you see on those films in those different areas of the body, right? And whether something looks potentially abnormal, or there's some question as to whether or not there's something that doesn't look quite right?
Exactly.
And so now I know the facility you work for, and I want to talk a little bit about that, is a company known as Wenger Passeri Radiology, and they've been around for a long time. And Amanda and I were just having this conversation before we got here, and one of the things that she brought up was, Amanda, what was that question? You had a great question.
Yeah, so, do MRI machines and CAT scan machines differ from facility to facility? Like, how does that kind of work? How do people know what facility they should go to? Those sorts of questions.
Absolutely. So the equipment does vary from facility to facility and company to company. There are newer equipment as well as different companies. Wenger Passeri really does a great job at replacing old equipment pretty quickly. We have a lot of 3 Tesla MRIs throughout all our offices, as well as we have high field open MRIs. Patients don't always know where to go, and it's not always advertised. We try to let our referring doctors know, everything that we have to offer. I think, Wenger Passeri really does a great job in having the latest up-to-date equipment and really providing it for their patients.
And so would I be correct in saying that not all equipment is the same? It differentiates in terms of how powerful the equipment might be, differentiates in terms of what images that it could actually give the radiologist to review. And so whether the radiologist is in the best position to assess a particular type of issue also can be related to whether or not the equipment itself is state of the art.
Absolutely. It definitely affects the resolution. I specialize in musculoskeletal radiology and spine radiology, and I interpret a lot of the joint imaging and the muscles and tendons. And there's a big difference between someone who has imaging done on, let's say, an open MRI that's 0.3 Tesla, that's not as powerful, as a 3 Tesla, which is, 10 times more powerful, you could really see some of those smaller structures much better, and it's going to pick up a lot more pathology than you would on, let's say an open MRI that's done elsewhere.
So I think that's critical, and I really think that we need to know when we're being referred to a place as to whether or not it's like Zwinger is, where your equipment is updated and that the radiologist has the tools that they're really going to need to assess whatever my condition is.
Right.
Because you may be a great radiologist, but you also are limited to as good as the camera, as good as the actual, in this case, actually, I know it's done with magnets, an MRI, but as good as the machine is, because you may be able to interpret something, but you need to be able to see it, right? If you don't see it, it might be there, it might not be there. And so I think that's important for our listeners, that not everything is created equal. And you can check it out. Zwinger Paciri does keep up with the most up-to-date technology. And you can say to your doctor, no, I want to go to this facility or that facility. And so we'll see you on the other side, Dr. Joe. Thanks. Really enjoying you being on today.
Okay, thank you.
Well, welcome back to our program. So glad to have you here today. We have Dr. Joseph Hanono on the phone with us, radiologist from Zwinger Paciri Radiology. Great facility. They have great equipment, and we just kind of going over that there is a difference, that not all radiologists, I should say radiological facilities are created equal, and of course not all radiologists are created equal. Dr. Joe, of course, has a great reputation, and but it is important to know that you have the right to choose and tell your doctor, no, you know what? I'd rather go to this facility or that facility. And you certainly could ask the question, do you have the most up-to-date equipment? Is your equipment equipment that really meets the needs of diagnosing my particular type of problem? Is it the best that's there? Don't just go ahead and just accept that everything is equal, because it's not. I also wanted to point out today that on our program, we talk about your freedoms to go ahead and get to the right facilities in the first place, whether it's the right doctors, whether it's the right medical facilities as a follow-up. And so we think it's important that you control your medical treatment. Yes. And Amanda, we know, right, we've had cases where we've seen situations where some of our clients, let's say they're in an accident, and the hospital will refer them to somebody. And we immediately know that that's not the right facility, that facility, for whatever reasons, doesn't treat people who have accidents and have injuries relating to someone's negligence. They don't treat them well. We've had people who cannot get a report out of a doctor.
Yes.
And we've literally had cases like that where they refuse. They take no fault, which means they're treating someone, let's say, related to an automobile accident, but then refuse to actually give the information that's necessary to prosecute that case, which is a narrative report, a report that says what your injuries are, what the problems are, what they were caused by, and or refuse to testify if necessary. And so you really need to go to a personal injury lawyer that's been doing this long enough to know that there are a few bad eggs. And I call them bad eggs. I'm not telling you that they may not be a decent treating doctor, but if they take a case knowing that it's related to an accident and then refuse to go ahead and to provide the proper documentation, whether it's a report and or testify, that's not right. Okay, I find that to be morally repugnant, and I really think that taking the money on the one side as a result of them having an accident and then not standing by and just reporting the truth, right, is unacceptable. And immediately that doctor, if that person comes in, should say, you know what, it's a no-fault case. I can't handle it because I won't cooperate. I won't give reports. I won't testify. And so it really does make a difference. So when you get to an experienced personal injury attorney, we're able to assess that. And I've had people that have told me, oh, no, this doctor is my friend, and this doctor is going to come ahead. I had another doctor, and the doctor, no, they said they'll testify. And the case was literally on the eve of trial. Doctor refused to give a report and the doctor refused to testify. And that case could have gone down in flames, but I was able to get another doctor to sort of pick it up and review all of the records, but that's not nearly as good.
Right. That's definitely why you want to get someone local, a personal injury attorney that knows what they're doing, that knows the local players here, that can really refer you to the best possible providers for what you need.
And we want to make sure that it is the best possible provider. So the first thing we want to make sure is they're going to do is treat you right, get you better. Mm-hmm. Okay. But that's not the end of it. If we got to get you compensated, if you're seriously hurt as a result of someone's negligence, they need to go ahead and do what the law says that we need to get done.
Right.
And we're only asking for them to tell the truth. We're not asking them to say anything other than what's the truth. But an unwillingness to do that certainly puts your case at risk and makes it very, very difficult for us to get you justice. So that's something to keep in mind, folks. And as we get back, we're going to get back with Dr. Joseph Hanono. And Dr. Joe, I'd like to talk to you about a couple of other topics. So you said, Doctor, that there's certain areas of radiology that you concentrated in. Am I correct?
Correct.
And so I think you said musculoskeletal and what else?
And spine imaging.
So could you tell us or tell our listeners what those areas involve?
So the spine, as you know, it would be the cervical, thoracic, and lumbar spine. And then the musculoskeletal imaging would be, all your different joints in your body, your ankle, your knee, your hip, your wrist, your elbow, your shoulders, any of the muscle injuries, any of the bone injuries or tumors. We're dealing with all the diseases of the musculoskeletal system. And that's what myself and a lot of my colleagues in the musculoskeletal division, we subspecialize in that.
So let me ask you this question. So within Zwanger, if a doctor refers someone to Zwanger, does Zwanger itself now know, well, we're going to let these radiologists review these films versus another radiologist within the practice review another? Do they have a staff of radiologists that can handle all in different areas, whereas they're not going to have to say, well, sorry, we can't do the test for you here. You have to go to some other facility?
Yes, we do have a system in place. We are, I think we're probably over 50 radiologists here. I don't know the exact number. But we're, various subspecialties. We have we have a number of radiologists specialized in neuroimaging, which is, the brain and the spinal cord and the head and neck. We have body imaging specialists. We have specialists who deal with the lungs and the heart. So I don't believe there is many exams that we do not have someone who's subspecially trained in. I'm sure there are a small handful of stuff that we don't regularly do that may be better to go to the hospital, where, a large number of something like that were to be done. But I would say we do, 99.9% of radiology imaging in the subspecialty trained area.
So, and you say a subspecialty trained area. What does that actually mean in layperson's terms?
So it's something you're doing for a long period of time, and that's mostly what you're doing, or you were actually fellowship trained in it, like myself and many of my colleagues. After finishing my radiology residency, which is 5 years, I did an additional fellowship year in musculoskeletal imaging, where we focused on, just the musculoskeletal system, and we weren't focusing on other parts of the body, like, the body and the heart.
Okay. So when somebody comes to the facility and they have these tests done, I assume that you as the radiologist obviously have to take some time to review it. They're not going to typically be given the results literally right after they take this exam. They shouldn't expect that, right? There's a period of time to review it and to make sure that you get the evaluation correct and the assessment of that actual film, right?
Yes. So unless it's something that needs to be interpreted, immediately, someone who is, maybe they're very sick, or, their doctor is considering surgery, we will usually take a little bit of extra time to interpret the images, but on occasion, someone needs the results stat, it's something we might review, within a few minutes or within an hour. And usually we try to report the results to the referring doctor first, because they have a relationship with the patient and we allow them to discuss it with the patient. But if for whatever reason, we couldn't get in touch with the doctor and it was an emergency, I have on, some occasions reported findings and results to the patient and, directed them to the hospital if necessary.
So what happens if let's say you get a film and, there can be questions at times where something really is up for interpretation? Do you use each other within the practice, that are within the subdisciplines to sometimes take a look at that film also to sort of get a second look at it and to make sure that what you're seeing is what they would see also?
Absolutely. We within my division, I think we have 8 or 9 musculoskeletal radiologists, and we have a group chat on our company computer. We're constantly reviewing cases with each other and brainstorming and bouncing ideas if there's a complicated case.
That's great.
It really comes up with the best diagnosis.
That's great. We're going to have to take the commercial break, but that's really good. That's really good to know, folks. You hear that? Swanger goes ahead and they double check, okay? And they have people there to look at it. So we'll see you on the other side, Doc. Thank you. You're just joining us. This is personal injury attorney Ken Auerbach on the show here with my great co-host and associate Amanda Spinner. You're on our program From No Fault of Your Own, and we're exploring some of the most important issues in personal injuries caused by accidents. If you or someone you care about has been injured as a direct result of someone's negligence, please contact us. Amanda, where?
You can get us at 631-654-4900 or on the web at myinjuryli.com. Again, that's 631-654-4900 or myinjuryli.com.
And we will see you. We have offices in Patchogue. We have offices in Nassau and Suffolk County, offices in the 5 boroughs. We'll come to your home. We'll go to a medical facility. We want to make it as easy as possible for you. We'll come to you after work, and that's right, after work, because you can be seriously injured but still be going to work. And we have many clients like that. Good people, if they can, they drag themselves to work. And doesn't mean you're not seriously injured. And all of our consultations are always free on personal injury cases. And if you do retain us, it's all on a contingency. It doesn't cost you anything unless we make a recovery. We'll add expenses, and you won't pay for those either unless we are successful. You can listen to our program every Monday from 4 to 5 p.m. as we explore these issues. Before we get back to Dr. Joe, we have a caller in. I believe we have a caller, Ron from Mastic. Amanda, why don't you take the call?
Ron, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, Ron. How's it going?
Hi, I'm very good. Is Ken available?
Ken is Ken is here with you. Okay, so you're here with Amanda and Ken. You have a question for us, Ron?
Yeah, Ron, I'm calling you, Ken, because something bothers me very much. A few months back, there was a car accident, and there was a serious injury with the helicopter, how to pick the person up. And it was right at an intersection in William Floyd Parkway here in the Shirley area. What bothers me is that people witnessed the accident. And I stopped, and I just spoke with an officer, didn't really want to speak with me, but he told me that there were no witnesses. So that's bullshit. Understand why would somebody not stop and say, I seen the light was green and that person hit that person?
Yeah, I mean, Ron, I think you make a really good point. We've talked about it on the show before, the importance of people caring about each other. Taking that extra time to stop and not just sort of assuming that someone else is going to go ahead and stop. And I've had many cases, Ron, and Amanda, you've had cases, right, where the difference between making the case, being able to make a good case or not, is the difference between that person taking that extra couple of minutes.
Yep, imagine that. It's just, maybe they make you wait over there for 15 minutes. But you know what? There is, like you said, there are complications with accidents, and witnesses' statements are factual, assigned by a person of disinterested third party who witnessed it.
That's a great, Ron. You know what? That's a great point, Amanda.
And I think another thing that we can tell our listeners also is that if you can't stay for whatever reason, leave your contact information. If you saw what happened, you witnessed what happened, at the very least, leave your contact information so later on someone can get in touch with you and discuss what you witnessed.
Ron, that's a really great call. And I got to tell you that I think we should always be thinking of what would we want somebody to do for us, our family members, our friends, or our loved ones?
Right.
What would we want them done? And if you think it like that, right, Ron, then, you're more likely to go ahead and spend the extra moment, at least give your information over. We've had cases, Ron, where people, they leave the scene, and now all of a sudden we have this contest about how did it actually happen when they shouldn't be. Okay. So listen, Ron, we got to go, but we really appreciate you. And
always a pleasure speaking with you.
Not a problem. We'll get you one of our great From No Fault to Your Own t-shirts, Ron. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks for calling in, Ron. Bye-bye.
You take care, Amanda, too. Okay.
Bye. All right.
Bye-bye.
Dr. Joe, are you there? Dr. Joe, are you back with us?
I'm back with you.
Oh, it's great. Thanks for taking the time today, Dr. Joe. So that really, is kind of interesting to kind of talk about that with different facilities. I think it does make a difference where a place like yours, that you're making sure that if you're not so sure about something, and that could be, right? Or you can look at something and you may have been doing it a long time, but you may not necessarily have seen something quite like it. And so you have other people within your practice that you could go to and support or try to clarify kind of what you're thinking. And right, that's the way that you do it.
Exactly.
And so now, Zwanga Passeri, where do they have offices? I mean, I see them everywhere.
Everywhere.
Okay.
So they have offices throughout Long Island, in Nassau and Suffolk. I think they have about 21 in Long Island, and there is one office in Harlem.
Oh, that's great. So that they're really easy for people to get to because obviously they're spread out, I would assume, throughout Long Island. And I do know also that, my clients have said that, and I know their experiences in terms of scheduling, it's very good, and I can tell you that, not all of those facilities are created equal where they make it as easy as possible for you. They give you the right information because, that's the other thing, Dr. Joe, depending on what kind of test you're going to take, right? There are tests where you may actually be required to maybe fast. You may be required to take some type of liquid or contrast, right?
Yes, and our scheduling department, they do a great job explaining to the patient, how to prepare for the examination, whether it be, fasting or, how early they have to come in if they need to prepare in any way.
And have you, over the course of your practice, have you seen a change in terms of the type of equipment, in terms of whether people use open MRIs, can't use open MRIs? Because it used to be there are a lot of people that are claustrophobic, and I'm sure they're listening to us today. Can you do and get an open MRI that's going to be sufficient in, let's say, a spinal injury case? Or do you have to all the time go in the enclosed machine and put up with that?
So we have a couple of different options. We have a high field open MRI. It's a 1.2 Tesla. That is the strongest open MRI that's on the market. And it produces very good images that are, very good for spine imaging. I wouldn't say it's equal to a 3 Tesla MRI, but, it does produce much better images than the open MRIs that we've been using, in past, maybe 10 years ago. Where there was like a 0.3 or a 0.7 Tesla. We also have another open MRI. It's a very new model. It's a 0.55 Tesla MRI, and it uses machine learning to really create a high resolution image. And the images, they've gotten really good, and they cut down the exam time to about 30 minutes or less on almost every exam. And that really helps these claustrophobic patients.
That's really great. Yeah, that's really great because I can tell you that I've had I've had clients that were patients and they really, really do everything possible but to get that test because they just can't handle the MRI. And I know that there's a possibility sometimes they can get a sedative or something like that, but that has its own ramifications, and not everybody wants to do that. Part of it is they're still thinking about being in the machine beforehand, and it makes it difficult. But the fact that you have those different types of machines, I really think that it's important. It's important too that for the person in treating, that they're going to still get a high resolution picture of a particular body part, and that they're not going to be sacrificing the ability for the assessment. And look, if it takes the way you have to go into a closed machine and that's what it's going to take, I tell everybody, we all got to suck it up a little bit, okay, if it's your health, and that's what we're talking about. But at the same time, when you have these other options, I think it's great. And I really love the way the industry sort of has evolved, and how, your company is open to it. It's not just sitting back and saying we'll do stuff and everything the old way. So really appreciate that. Dr. Joe, again, from Zwinger Pasiri. Amanda, it's been great having him on the show here. It's a great facility, folks. Please tell your doctors, and you can tell your doctors, your medical providers. There's many of those offices locally. Please go there. And please make sure that you take care of yourself. And if your doctor says to get an exam, go get the exam. Dr. Joe, can't thank you enough. Really, it's been very informative. And we look forward in the future to hopefully having you on the show again. And really thank you for educating us and educating our listeners.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Okay. And folks, you're now going home from our program from No Fault of Your Own. We will see you next week.
See you next week.
Have a safe week.